Hello and welcome to Procrastination Point's video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books, discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of Crewel by Gennifer Albin. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 4. The chapter opens with Ad talking about how she's now sitting in the lap of luxury, eating things that she would have never imagined possible in her old life. She talks some about the scenery outside, but then opens her window to touch the rain. It's then that she realizes that the things she's viewing aren't real and are part of the weave. This is one of those things where the concepts are really cool and I would like to learn more. However, the way that this is written is really confusing. As starts to grab fistfuls of yarn from the weave and starts trying to work with it. Now, I don't know all that much about yarn work, but isn't the entire point of having a woven fabric is that it's, completed and you can't simply jab your fingers into it and start pulling out threads? And even if you did start yanking on threads, wouldn't the entire thing completely fall apart? Now, I get that this is a fantasy novel, and the things she's pulling on are the literal fabric of reality, but that's what I've been complaining about. The author says stuff like this, and then never bothers to actually explain any of it. Yes, we are only in Chapter 4, but we're already off to such a confusing start. I hope things start to get explained soon. I wish I could weave tears into my eyes, losing the constant ink from my chest, but they won't come, so I stare at the rain which I've freed to fall from the bloated clouds. Calm down there, edgelord. It's at this point that Ad realizes that she isn't alone. A woman introduces herself as Anor and says that she's to mentor Ad. She orders servants to bring in food and starts to explain things. I get the sense that she, unlike Mela, can be trusted. She spent literally 5 seconds with her at this point. I'm gonna go out on a limb and call it Magical Mary Sue Guessing Powers. Anor says that she's an actual spinster and an assistant under the Crueler. However, that is a title that Ad isn't familiar with, so I guess that we'll find out when she does. This is interrupted by serving girls coming in with armfuls of clothes. A lot of them are ball gowns, which Ad obviously questions. Why do you have to be so decked out to spin the fabric of reality? But this is a glitzy young adult dystopia modeled after the Hunger Games. If we can't show important people spending obscene amounts of money on fancy clothes and lavish parties, how will we know that they're the bad guys and that this is a poorly written commentary on capitalism? Sometimes the guild calls girls who are very talented but lack the finesse necessary to work on the looms. It would be wasteful to put them to work in the quarters or in the kitchen, so they go to work as our seamstresses. What if I don't want to wear things like this? I try to keep the challenge out of my voice, but it slips through anyway. Anor stares at me, not blinking, before she answers. Would you waste these girls' talents? Honestly, I think it's a waste of their time in order to be forced to make ball gowns that nobody actually wants to wear. Finally, Anor gets back to the plot. She asks Ad if she's ever woven stuff without instruments or even a loom before. She confirms that there aren't any actual windows in the building and that this is to keep the girls safe, but goes on to say that most usually don't notice. It looks so real, but I wondered why I could touch it, I murmur. Fear flashes through her chocolate brown eyes. I need you to trust me. You must never tell anyone else you can do that. Always use a loom and to weave. Try not to do it without me, even when you are alone. Might as well have a giant neon sign yelling out, "This'll be important later! This'll be important later!" Ad wonders why it would be so dangerous for people to find this out, especially at the place where they squirrel away all of these girls. Something tells me that we're going to be spending the rest of the series with Ad finding out the hard way why this is so bad. Anor goes on to explain that every single girl will get at least a month in order to prove herself. Some girls don't take that long. However, as she mentioned earlier, nobody actually gets to leave this place. Some become seamstresses, others the literal servants. At this point, Ad is starting to understand the hierarchy here. She also has to explain that the act of weaving will be taught to all of the girls. So it's not exactly like they expect the girls to know how to do this, only to have the ability at all. It merely refers to removing weak or brittle threads. By threads, you mean people? There's a slight pause before she says, yes. So when you rip, you're killing someone. I remember my mother crying outside my grandmother's hospital room after a stern nurse sent us away for a moment. We never saw my grandmother again. It's so much more humane than what used to happen. Anor continues, her warm chocolate eyes misting over a little. In the past, people watched their loved ones die and then buried their bodies. Ah yes, forcefully removing people from the fabric of reality is so much better. That sounds like a good way to have zero closure. Ad asks what happens to these people when they're removed from the fabric of reality. Anora literally says that it's not her department. However, I feel as if the subject is also going to be one of those things that's going to come back around and be super important later. Like their threads are respawned and then rewoven back into the fabric of reality or something. Finally, she asks about who this Crewel is. Anor explains that this is the woman who gathers the raw materials, that she is super busy and rarely has the time to interact with people who aren't the top spinsters. Another prediction, Ad is going to meet her sooner rather than later. And when Ad does meet her, the woman is going to offer up some sort of dire prediction. Anor starts to fuss with the clothes for Ad. Ad asks what happened to her family, and Anor promises to find out for her. At this point, they move to the bathroom to get Ad ready for orientation. We're also introduced to Ad's personal beautician, Valerie. The narration then hits us with some weirdly backhanded racism about how Valerie is Asian, and then punches us with some casual misogyny. I'm beginning to understand why Spencers are so finely polished. They could never allow other inferior women to be more beautiful than they are. Sister, ugh. Don't be a woman who has to trash every woman on the planet in order to offer up one woman a compliment. Also, Ad is a southpaw, which, yay, representation? You're stunning, Adelaide. This isn't me, I say, watching the strange scarlet lips move. It is now, Anor whispers firmly. Yes, what a great message to tell teenage girls. Change literally every single aspect of who you are, and then people will like you. Even if all of this is torn down by the end of the series, look me in the eye and tell me that the impressionable 14-year-old girl who's being bullied in school won't take away more from the first message and fail to understand whatever the final message is about. After her makeover, Ad is escorted from her room. As she goes, she tries to memorize the location of everything in the off chance that she can get away from her room. As they walk outside, Ad sees the boy who'd carried her from the dungeon taking in her makeover. He seems disappointed, despite the fact that every single person has told Ad that there's no escaping from this place. Chapter 5. What did he expect? Did he think I was going to set fire to the compound and run away, hungry and cold? She kind of raises a really valid point. Anne asks why it is that there's men there, and Nora explains that women can't be expected to do security. Oh no, that's a job for manly men. Anora takes her to where there's a group of other girls and tells her to play nice with them, that Anne will be spending the rest of her life with these girls. The sight of them only reminds Ad of her academy days, where girls did everything within their power in order to try and wear makeup without actually putting any on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, think pinching your cheeks for color. The narration pauses for a moment to describe this group of girls to us. However, it's one of those things where I seriously don't know why the author even bothered. Without the context of who these girls are, this is irrelevant information. I forgot everything about the girls described as soon as the paragraph ended. Instead, a girl with, and I quote, oil black hair sits next to her. The narration goes on to explain that this girl has an exotic beauty. That word makes me want to vomit. The description of how Asian that Valerie was earlier was bad enough. Do we seriously have to throw around words like exotic to describe these girls? Emphasis on girl. These are literal children. Bad. Bad author. Anyway, this girl introduces herself as Brianna, and maybe the author primed us with the exotic beauty nonsense, but that name is for sure giving some serious Indian vibes. Brianna goes on to say that Anne looks lost and that all of the girls already know one another. That it's unusual for a girl to be given her own room right off the bat, which, yes, kind of agree. They put Anne into the dungeon for a few hours, yet give Anne her own special snowflake suite. But Brianna goes on to say that she's getting all the gossip, not from the other girls, but from the maids, because her own mother was a maid at a hotel and knew the best gossip, so that's what Brianna started to do as well. Being called to serve the Guild of 12 is an honor, and with honor comes privilege. Being called, is that what they're calling barging into somebody's house in the middle of the evening, murdering a man in cold blood and dragging the literal children out by their hair on the same freaking level as a polite invitation? This hologram starts to give this speech as a sort of welcome to the Coventry. It doesn't really go over anything that even the readers don't already know, but apparently not all of the girls knew that coming here was a forever thing, which, again, why do they force these girls from their home but then forbid them from leaving? Surely this place is overrun with women scrubbing the floors because they've been taking too many. The hologram continues on and shows them a picture of Loom. As she continues to watch, Ad tells the readers that she's always had a compulsion to weave literally anything. The video continues on and explains that there are 4 different compounds, each one controlling a different thing. The one that they're in controls food and weather. However, the guild can issue transfer orders to the girls, or if their skills are better suited for one of the other compounds, they might get moved. Is this a little info-dumpy? Yes, but within a single paragraph, we somehow learn more about this world than in the previous 4 chapters. The video goes on to basically say that things like crimes and accidents are carefully controlled here. After hearing this, Ad thinks back to the conversation she'd had with Cormac on the train about how life in Eris is hardly peaceful. The illusion is kept up because the spinsters and Crewelers work to keep it like that. And I understand the gilded cage of false windows and concrete they keep us in. We can never go home with this knowledge. I refuse to believe that in a world that is able to stop people from committing crimes or having accidents, they can't find a way to erase memories. I'm calling malarkey on this one. The video ends with a shot of the compound that they're in, but it's a disgusting looking concrete block, and Ed doesn't understand why some of the girls are gushing about it. Brianna says that she's eager to get onto the Loom, that up until now it's been nothing but watching dumb videos on stuff like maintaining purity. Ad doesn't know why they'd bother, but Brianna points to Eric who'd come into the room right then to escort the girls to whatever was next, which, how convenient that there are actually men in this woman's only place. Ugh. Outside, Eric tells him that he's going to take them on a tour. Brianna is disappointed that they won't get to try the looms yet, but is only happy to follow Eric around. In her haste not to seem as if she's exactly like the other girls, Ad insists that she doesn't find Eric all that attractive, but then she grabs Brianna and drags her to the front of the group. I guess that they're going to be BFFs now. Eric shows them the first room, and there Ad accidentally lets slip that she's already figured out that the windows are all fake, but then has to scramble to cover that up. At the entry level, you will handle rationing, reaping food from the farm cities into cities across Eris. Okay. So these ladies are literally creating from threads. Is there some sort of limit as to what they can create? Because if not, holy cow, they're intentionally creating food shortages and intentionally making people poor. This entire thing is beyond icky. I get that it's supposed to be a dystopia, but come on. Eric goes on to explain that the second tier controls the weather and the third one is about doing alterations and rebounds. He doesn't offer up any explanation to that, which is kind of odd. He's simply going to casually draw stuff like that in the tour and quickly move on. The girls can't even see the fourth tier because that requires security clearance. Again, Ad is going to end up going in there sooner or later. The process of bringing new life into Eris is very precise. Once a pregnancy has been approved at the local guild clinics, the Department of Origins in that sector works in tandem with the local doctors and hospitals to bring new life into Eris smoothly. To accomplish this, spinsters schedule births so the new thread can be woven in as the baby is delivered by the doctor and surgical team. It's a routine procedure here at the Coventry, but it requires a delicate touch. As usual with stuff like this, I hate how much potential that it has. This is really interesting, yet it's wrapped up in such misogyny and otherwise bad writing. I'm always hoping that things turn out better than I could predict, but I've read enough books exactly like this to say things usually don't get better. I nod my head automatically, but my mind is on my mother and the scar that marred her perfect figure right across her belly. My parents made sure that I knew how babies were made, insisting that it was unfair to expect me to meet purity standards without knowing what I had to stay away from, but they never explained how babies actually came into the world. Now I understood why it was impossible for her to have another child without permission. I'm waiting for the entire you can actually have children outside of the Loom business to start up. Not with Ad, but probably one of the other girls. And a guard. Brianna asks Eric what else is beyond the security area. However, rather than for the narration to quickly have Eric answer this, it takes a long detour through Brianna's foolish efforts to flirt with Eric. He turns away indifferent, which makes Brianna question if he's gay. Ad thinks that there's something else about him. It's only after this is over that Eric says that while there's other stuff up there, he can't tell them what it is. How long do you think it'll be before Ad finds out? It's probably super sinister. As they move on, Brianna talks about her own life. She says that they pulled 10 girls from the area where she lived, which is some kind of record. But there are also a lot of girls from the area who went on to become spinsters. In Roman, Ad was pretty much the only one who'd been pulled for a long time. So it kind of seems like there's some sort of classism going on here. Going to make another prediction that this is going to become a horse the dead horse question for the series. When you can weave literally the fabric of reality, why are you still weaving in inequality? They go upstairs, and an act that in itself takes over half a freaking page. But up in the room there, they find Mela, who tells the girls that they'll be doing an early test to try and weed out those with less talent. The girls had been eager to hear that they'd be getting their first chance to work with the Loom, but that excitement quickly dims with the realization that most of them are going to end up scrubbing toilets for the rest of their lives. Rest assured that when you were invited, I laugh before I can stop myself. Atlas, is something humorous? Mela asked sharply, and every head swivel is to stare at me. You reminded me of something that happened earlier, a smile forcing myself to meet her gaze. No. Please continue to call them out for having murdered your father. Please. I am begging you. Many of those dismissed from spinning or crueling work are quite happy working in our mill or in various other necessary positions. Much like how literally not every single girl was actually invited, I doubt that a single girl scrubbing toilets is happy. If too many strands are weak, it compromises large sections, and as you can imagine, this puts everyone at risk. Okay, cool. They literally confirm that they take out bad seeds whenever they freaking feel like it. Oh, new prediction. I think that, probably not in this book, but at some point Ad is going to get ripped herself. No, is that too dark? I guess I'll find out. Mela finally says that girls will be completing their first removal. Brianna asks if it's called ripping. Mela agrees but says that she thinks the term is vulgar, as if the pretty language somehow makes up for all the atrocities that Mela has likely committed. As Eric gets out the looms, Ad again foolishly reveals to everybody that she's a special snowflake. She asks if people can see the woof of reality. Mercifully, Mela laughs about the entire thing and says that nobody can, except, obviously, our magical Mary Sue. Hospital staff submit removal requests for individuals in poor health and for the elderly. Oh, so you could literally be erased from existence because some overworked and underpaid nurse made a clerical error? Great! I love this book more and more with every new detail we learn. Mela shows them the loom and tells them that what they're looking at is the girls as they're standing right now. She then goes on to kind of show them how to work the loom to zoom in on specific instances or people. Then she shows them how to find weak strands with their magic fingers and to simply pluck out a life. That's right, girls! Have you ever wanted to simply and casually murder millions of people? Join the Spinsters, and you can! Ad goes second to last because Brianna was too anxious to go up. When Ad steps forward, Mela puts up this really complex part, more complex than anything the other girls got. With her talent, it doesn't take Ad long to find the weak thread. However, she's upset and angry when Mela insists that Ad has to pluck it out, and insists that it's too interconnected and plucking it would destroy the nearby threads. Then, as if to demonstrate that she's evil, Mela then slashes the tapestry, which I'd like to remind everybody was the literal tapestry of reality that they're working on. They weren't using some sort of test tapestry or anything. She probably rained destruction down on a city, killing thousands and injuring millions, toppling buildings. But then she casually asks that the guards go tell the Spencers that they need an emergency patch. The only thing that could possibly have made the scene any better would have been if Mela had said something along the lines of, "Whoopsie doodles!" I try to bite my tongue, but the flood of hot anger rises up in my body and into my cheeks prevents it. That was unnecessary. I told you that even one weak thread was a danger. The only danger here is unchecked power over the literal fabric of reality. And then because this book really wants to hammer this point in, Mela calls up the image of what she destroyed. It wasn't a city as I thought, but a school. When she'd ripped the canvas, she'd erased an entire freaking school, presumably one that was full of students. And what have we learned? That Mela was a psycho. Well, I'm glad that the book said it because we were all thinking it. Mela then says that Brianna is excused from her own testing, and that Mela is sorry for Brianna's loss. Confused, Ad asks what was meant by that. Brianna says that the school was the place where she lived, that her sister attended that school, and then Brianna randomly blames Ad for the death of her sister, despite the fact that Ad refused to do the ripping in the first place. Mela was the one who took out a scythe and sliced the tapestry. Why isn't Brianna angry at the situation that casually murders random people whenever they feel like it? Anyway, Brianna starts to attack Ad, but Eric is forced to pull Ad to safety. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. Newly added to Patreon is to become a member without paying. You'll get access to the same things on Tumblr, but on Patreon. Supporters can have access to so many more books now starting at $1 a month. Also, Note is a 1-week free Patreon trial, so be sure to check that out. Special thanks to Dawn and Phoebe for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is, but not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of spicy short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!